Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into something really exciting. There's more than one way to build muscle, that's the good news. While we're all familiar with the classic myofibrillar growth, where you break down muscle fibers and they rebuild stronger, that's just one piece of the puzzle. We're going to explore some other fascinating pathways to muscle growth that you might not even know about. We'll be covering 6 somewhat unconventional ways you build muscle. So let's jump right into the first way. The first way we build muscle is the one most of us know, and it's backed by a lot of evidence. The classical myofibrillar hypertrophy model. This is where you're breaking down the muscle fiber and you're rebuilding it, ideally with more fiber growth. Let's look at a study that helps break this down. Subjects did either high volume or high load resistance training for 6 weeks. What they found was fascinating. The people who did high volume work actually had more muscle cross-sectional area than those who did high load work. This suggests that for myofibrillar growth, volume might be more important than just lifting super heavy. It's not just about tearing it down with extreme weight. Higher volume with moderate load seems to be better. Now, how does this translate to protein synthesis? The higher volume group also had higher protein synthesis, which is crucial for muscle repair and growth. But what's the real takeaway here? A 2020 large review that looked at 28 different studies found that muscle strength gains are the most superior marker for muscle growth. And this is relative. You don't need to be benching 1,000 pounds. What they found is that moderate to heavy strength gains were superior to lightweight strength gains. So, improving your strength is priority number 1, but doing it with moderate or heavy loads is better than just light loads. Ultimately, the key takeaway for myofibrillar growth is proximity to failure. If you're doing a moderate load with higher volume, you're getting more tearing down and breakdown for the average person. This is a big driver for mTOR stimulation, anabolic signaling, and ultimately muscle protein synthesis. And, as with anything we're talking about today, protein is absolutely critical. That's how you repair. That is your muscle protein synthesis on the other side of it. So yes, you want to get enough protein throughout the day to maximize your repair and growth. Our next method of growth is a little different: sarcoplasmic expansion. Some in the exercise community might say this is temporary growth, but it can translate into more permanent gains. Sarcoplasms are like the contractile proteins within the muscle, but they can grow, expand, and hold more water and glycogen. When this happens, you get a somewhat temporary growth that can actually lead to more permanent changes. A study took a look at previously trained participants. They took muscle biopsies before and after 3- and 6-week training blocks with lower and higher volume. They found that participants who did significantly more volume, going from 10 sets per week to 32 sets per exercise per week, had a 23% increase in muscle cross-sectional area. That's a huge jump. This doesn't mean you have to do high volume all the time. This was a progressive increase. You can occasionally do volume spurts, like a 2-week period of high volume, and see serious growth. Much of this growth was due to an increase in sarcoplasmic protein concentrations, meaning more intracellular water, more protein concentration, and an increase in glycogen. This pump and growth persisted for about 8 days. This increased intracellular volume can actually help you get stronger over time. This temporary growth through glycogen supercompensation is really interesting. When you acutely increase volume, your body thinks, oh, this person's going to train a lot more, let's soak up more carbohydrates into the muscle. Those carbs go into the muscle, making you look fuller and giving you a better pump that lasts longer than just after your workout. You also see an increase in sarcoplasmic enzymes, increasing your ability to build muscle and get stronger. So, occasional high-volume spurts for sarcoplasmic growth can be really beneficial, but remember, don't go high volume all the time. Do these spurts. Finally, the pump itself actually triggers growth. The stretching of the muscle with a pump signals various pathways, leading to more permanent growth later on. Now let's move into our third category: metabolic stress. It's funny because in almost every area of the body there's a metabolic theory, and muscle growth is no different. While mechanical growth is primary, other ways contribute. Metabolic stress is where metabolites build up during your training, that familiar burn. You get a buildup of hydrogen ions, lactate, and inorganic phosphate. These aren't just waste products, they actually trigger signals for growth. A study published in March of 2025 looked at this and found there is something there. It was a large review that looked at the metabolic theory of building muscle. And here's what it lays out. Metabolic stress can be an anabolic signal. It's mainly the buildup of inorganic phosphate that causes the peripheral fatigue and burn. This fatigue and overcoming it acts as a driver for more muscle fiber recruitment and ultimately more growth. It's like your body saying, uh-oh, we need more help here. Lactate accumulation also plays a role. It's a primary signaling device that prompts the body to release things like VEGF. vascular endothelial growth factor, which causes the growth of new capillaries and blood vessels, getting more blood flow to the muscle. Subsequently, you also find an increase in IGF, insulin-like growth factor, another crucial component in the muscle protein synthesis cascade. So, how do we capitalize on this mechanical signaling? This is where chasing the burn can help. Think higher reps in that 10 to 15 range with quick rests between sets. You're trying to load these metabolites up as much as you can. Examples include 21s for bicep curls or supersets like leg extensions right into squats, just chasing that burn. You don't have to do this all the time, but layering these periods of metabolic training can access another avenue of growth. Next up is stretch-mediated hypertrophy, a concept many experts talk about. This still falls under mechanical growth, but it focuses more on loading the muscle in a stretched position, rather than just focusing on overall load. You'll need less weight to achieve the same degree of load due to simple lever-arm mechanics. A 2023 review looked at the stretch-mediated hypertrophy response and basically found that it's the same sort of mechanical growth that's occurring with mid-range, like normal lifting, but it's just slightly different in the way that there's a little bit different signaling. It still tears down muscle fibers in a very similar way. This involves what's called passive tension, which really focuses on your integrins, those mechanical anchors that sense load. When you stretch these anchors, they sense the load through a different position, causing mechanical stress and a stronger signal from these integrins. As a result, you send more blood flow and potentially more satellite cells, muscle stem cells, to the area. There's even some evidence that by going into an extreme stretch position, your body overcompensates and rebuilds to protect itself, saying we need to strengthen this to prevent tearing. How do you apply this? Consider occasionally incorporating exercises where you really focus on the stretch with a relatively lighter weight and lower volume. This is great for days when you might not have time or energy for heavy lifting. You can still grow muscle via a different pathway, not just preserving it. Now for a couple of honorable mentions. The first is time under tension. While not a unique mechanism, it capitalizes on many of the things we've already discussed. Instead of focusing on load, you focus on how long your muscle is under tension. I'd rephrase this as eccentric focused training, where you're emphasizing the lowering phase of a lift. This can really capitalize on the classical myofibrillar growth model because when the load is overcoming you, you're tearing down more. When the weight overcomes you, those integrins sensing the stretch and load, along with focal adhesion sites, get activated. This signals chemical and mechanical changes that lead to muscle building. Time under tension combines the metabolic piece, you get a lot of burn, and the eccentric loading, which can activate some of these growth pathways. While the science isn't fully solidified as a standalone method, it can be a valuable tool, especially if you have injuries and can't lift heavy. The final honorable mention, and one I'm cautiously optimistic about, is isometric training. Some of the most esteemed academic people that I know, and people that are in amazing shape, do serious isometric training. While the mechanisms aren't fully understood, it seems to highly tax the nervous system in ways it's not used to. It's also great for anti-sarcopenia, muscle wasting, which is the degradation of muscle as we get older. I'm inclined to think it has a lot to do with the nervous system, proprioception, and even how our pain tolerance can contribute to muscle growth. Muscle growth is often rewarded to those who can endure pain and get their brain right to push through. Isometrics are a relatively safe way to induce that pain. It might also train you to feel safer in certain positions, turning muscles on more effectively. I've seen it firsthand. So, we've talked about these 6 different ways of building muscle, really the 3 primary pathways: mechanical breakdown, myofibrillar, sarcoplasmic, which I'm most excited about, and metabolic. How do we layer all this? Fundamentally, stick with classical mechanical breakdown through your typical hypertrophy training. Incorporate 2-week volume spurts to get that glycogen supercompensation and sarcoplasmic growth. After that, consider periods of a week or so of really fast metabolic training with short rest periods, focusing on the burn rather than just proximity to failure. And occasionally add in stretch-mediated hypertrophy in 1 or 2 exercises per workout, really focusing on the stretch with lighter weight to induce that unique response. By accessing these multiple avenues of growth, you'll get the absolute most out of your training. That's all for this video. And that's a wrap for this deep dive into muscle growth. I hope this opened your eyes to the incredible complexity and adaptability of your body. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more science-backed fitness content. As always, keep training smart, keep pushing your limits, and I'll see you in the next video.